silence. He's fighting for Zion. Oh, there's no other God like Jehovah, Jehovah. He's on every side. His eyes are like fire. There's no other God like Jehovah, Jehovah. For the name, for the name, for the name, Jehovah. All I praise, all I praise, all I praise belongs to you. For the name, Jehovah. Belongs to you. All the glory and praise is yours. All right, let's call on it. Hey. Jehovah Nissi, fight your battles. 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 That's what he is. Jehovah Nissi, fight your battles. Jehovah Jireh, meet your need. Jehovah Rapha, heal your body. Hey. Jehovah Shalom, be your peace. Jehovah Nissi, fight your battle. Jehovah Jireh, meet your need. Jehovah Jireh, meet your need. Rapha, heal your body. Jehovah Shalom, be your peace. Jehovah Shalom, be your peace. Jehovah Nissi.
Good morning. So, if you're confused as to what you just watched, I recently came back from a 2-week-long mission trip in Honduras. So, I just want to share a little bit about that and my experience. So, going into this trip, I was very excited. I wanted to go on a mission trip for a long time, but after deciding to go for it, I started to have some doubt. And I wondered if maybe this was a selfish thing that I was doing, maybe because I just wanted a cool experience. But I realized that although it was my decision to do this trip, God also called me to do this. And there was a reason that I was there, and God had a plan for me the whole time. So that was really encouraging to me going into it. First of all, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for all the financial support, for all your prayer and your letters of encouragement. All of it means a lot to me. So thank you so much. The first 4 days of the trip were actually spent in New York, and that's where we had 4 days of training. So we learned how to share the gospel. We learned about cross-culture ministry, doing it in a new culture with a big language barrier, and we learned about some of the struggles we face. But one of the main things that we learned how to do was share the gospel through our testimonies. And we learned the importance of our testimonies and how that can connect to people, especially kids my age, when I'm sharing my story and how the gospel has affected my life. So this was a really important part of the trip, and I'm really thankful that I had that training. So the first 2 days that we spent in Honduras, we spent at the Word of Life camp that they have there. And we mostly just did some cleanup, worked on the property a little bit, got it ready for a summer camp that was going to be happening for a bunch of kids that summer. And I got to know all the people that I was going on the trip with, and that was a really good time to get to know the missionaries there and hear their stories, why they were missionaries, why they do what they do. After that, the next 4 or 5 days, we traveled half an hour away to Tegucigalpa, which is the capital of Honduras. There's a little over 2 million people living there, and it is a very impoverished city. We went to 2 different schools. One of them we spent 3 days in, and it is the biggest high school in Honduras. It's got 2,000 kids in it, and it is one of the most impoverished schools there. A lot of the kids that go to that school, they're like inner city kids. They come from poor families. There's a lot of gangs in that school. And this really put into perspective how much we have and how much other places need God and Jesus in their life. During this week, a lot of these kids were very vulnerable. A week before we went into that school, there was a shooting, and one girl died. So during this time, these kids were going through a lot of hurt and a lot of confusion. And I think it was just a lot more impactful what we were doing, because we got to share the love of Jesus and the hope and the joy that can bring. So while we were there, we played a lot of VBS-like games with the kids. Over the 4 days, we had 15 groups of around 60 kids. And we were in one room all day. We would play a bunch of games with them. We would all sit down and hear the gospel. And then we would break off into smaller groups. And this was when we got to share our testimonies and the gospel with them again. And we got to go over any questions that they might have and just talk to them about how Jesus has impacted our life and what the gospel means to us. So during this time, I also had a lot of doubt then. I kind of doubted how do I explain this? When I was sharing my testimony, I didn't know if I was really making an impact or getting to these kids' hearts. But I realized that it's not us who leads people to Christ, it's the Holy Spirit. And we're only planting the seeds with these kids. So over these 4 or 5 days, we talked to 970 kids. We had 15 groups in total. And every kid that we talked to, we gave them a little piece of paper, and it was called a Bible tract. And it went through the gospel, and if they wanted to accept Jesus into their hearts and they wanted to give their life to Christ, they would write down their name and their number on the piece of paper and then give it to us. So out of those 970 kids, 305 kids accepted Christ. So although I was facing a lot of doubt and worry, one girl in particular really stuck out to me. I had just gotten done sharing my testimony. It was probably the 3rd time that I had done it. And I walked through the gospel with them. And after we were done, we started to play more games. But this one girl came up to me, and she started asking questions about my faith and about my testimony. And I just started praying, and I asked God to speak through me. And I learned that she is a Christian, but she had never accepted Jesus. And so I talked to her a lot about my faith. And I asked her if she wanted to accept Jesus, and she said yes. So we went through the prayer. And just seeing how God spoke through me, it gave me a lot of courage and just reassured me that God can work through anyone, no matter what circumstance you're in, no matter how old you are, no matter what your story is. Jesus can always work through you, and you can just always relate to those kids.